Tom, what's the first thing you think of when you think of MySpace?
That we were all on a path to a very successful career in coding and web design, but we never quite made it all the way there, and I regret that more than anything. What about you?
That's a cool thought. I like where your head's at. I'm not going to expand on that at all. But the first thing I think of, there's two things. One, Dane Cook friending everybody. And the second thing is the fact that Ever So Sweet by the early November would have been as famous as Hey There Delilah had the timing been right with what MySpace was for the Plain White T's. And I think I want to talk about that more today, if you're into it.
Oh my God. Let's do it. What is going on, everybody? I'm Tom.
And I'm Pat.
We're best friends, and you're listening to the Reminiscent Podcast. They say you can't choose your family. Well, you also can't choose which era of music you grew up in. This is a weekly show where we discuss our favorite bands from adolescence and how they continue to shape our lives today. Each week, we'll head back to the early 2000s and take a closer look at the cards we were dealt. I guess I'm not super clear on the argument here. Are you saying that Ever So Sweet is a better song than Hey There Delilah? Or do you think that Hey There Delilah only became the 4 million digital sales in the US alone that it did because of MySpace?
I think we should talk about the Hey There Delilah numbers first. Or should we talk about the timeline first? Should we lay down the fact that we think they're both similar songs, and which was the genesis of this whole episode to begin with? Is that fair to say? Can we start
all
there?
All at once. Yeah.
Cool. Plain White T's, Hey There Delilah, and Ever So Sweet. Separated in release dates by 2 years, 2 measly years in the middle of the emo boom. Ever So Sweet came out in 2003. Hey There Delilah came out in 2005, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
And to me, they're equally, like we talked about the Hawthorne Heights side of emo, the screamo side of emo, but there was definitely a softer side. Can we lay down some of these base facts as we start to build our case, either against MySpace or the Plain White T's? I don't know. I don't really hate anybody involved. We're building a case. All I can say is that there's a case being built.
Not sure of its agenda yet, but let's expand. Yes, I think
let's start to build it. It's like that Michael Scott thing where sometimes you get in the middle and you figure out how it's going to end.
Don't do anything to anyone, ever, for any reason. So, okay, I think on the surface, if we're going to talk about the similarity of these two songs, it's funny, I had never heard the original, like, full band version of Ever So Sweet until this morning. I thought it was purely an acoustic song. Apparently that came out on an acoustic EP 2 years later. I think it's a better version of the song. So when you said that these are very similar, it's actually, gosh, even more interesting. I forgot there were violins and stuff in Hey There Delilah.
Yeah, each have two distinct versions. Which would you say would be the most popular version of either?
I mean, I don't know if there is a second version of Hey There Delilah. I think it's just been so long since I heard it. I didn't remember the whole orchestral thing. Is that like what was on the radio, and is that what you remember?
I would say that the acoustic version of Ever So Sweet is the only one I was aware of until the research we did for this show. And the pre-strings version of the Plain White T's song is one I was intimately familiar with, and the one that I saw people embed in countless MySpace profiles when that feature became available. And then the radio version had strings, and it confused me greatly and disappointed me almost, because I was more familiar with the stringless version.
Okay, so I'm not like going crazy. There is a stringless version, because I swear I've never heard a version with strings in it.
I would say the strings in my head, it made sense that they would have been more polished and reproduced and everything, but I don't know if the timeline holds up. You were saying that there was a re-release at some point
of Ever So Sweet, which was re-released as an acoustic version. So it's interesting that the two of those are kind of opposites. But listening to the stringed version of Ever So Sweet, it was funny. I thought that was almost trying to be too over dramatic, and these lyrics in this song are, I think, definition of emo sad boy over dramatic and a little harsh, little aggressive at times.
Ooh. Should we just lay this down right now? Does Ever So Sweet land in the Sad Boy Hall of Fame?
Ooh.
We haven't had a nominee in a while.
Right. I don't know if like in terms of numbers, because when I tried to Google sales, nothing even came up. There was stuff that wasn't even the early November related. But I think purely in terms of tone, in terms of lyrics, music, I'd say this is definitely a nominee, if not Hall of Famer, for sure.
Ooh, okay. The only problem I have is in 2003, I was 13, and we talked a little bit about this on the Futures episode we did a couple weeks ago. There was absolutely zero, like, real life example to like base any of this off of. So
right.
It might miss my Hall of Fame vote only because I don't have, would you call that an autobiographical or a biographical example of anything the song would have represented, which doesn't mean much. It's just, we're just two guys talking on a pod, but yeah, tone and lyrics and music, it totally qualifies.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. When did you first hear this song though? Because I don't think we first heard it when we were 12, 13 in 2003.
I thought we did. I thought Zach tried to cover it a lot, like in his basement. I thought that was one of like the first, when he was getting into music and we were getting into music. I remember it as something that would have been played in his basement before or after jamming a little bit, but I could be mixing my timelines a touch.
No, you're right. I vividly remember that, but I remember listening to this song in German class, which would have been freshman or sophomore year of high school. And considering the fact that I had never heard the full band version, it means I would have had to listen to this after 2005 when the acoustic version was released. So it's possible we weren't listening when we were 12 and 13. I don't think I was. I know I wasn't. So
also, do you feel that based on the subject matter and the way it's presented, it's a little soft? I don't know. There's something universal maybe about Hey There Delilah that it's almost like, I don't know if I'm allowed to be into this so much, but this was like diving headfirst into every season of Scrubs and embracing the Zach Braffian like model of acoustic jammage that you're allowed to partake in. Like when you're still figuring yourself out, it's like whew, with the falsetto and everything. I like this, but I don't know if I'm going to keep it in the library. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to keep listening to, I don't know, Hoobastank or something like only distortion for me until I get my feet down because people keep pantsing me at football practice and stuff or something. You know what I mean? Like,
one of the top comments on YouTube on the Hey There Delilah video, it's this guy that said, when the homies aren't around and you can listen to something other than rap for a few minutes.
I just remember one not catching on and the other almost literally taking over the world, right? So in 2003, let's just walk through the timeline a little bit. Early November went on tour with Brand New, and throughout 2003, they continued to tour and write songs in preparation for their first full-length CD, The Room's Too Cold, which was released in the fall of that year.
Wait, hold on. So they went on tour with Brand New before they even had a full-length LP out?
That's what it's looking like, yeah.
Wow.
And then The Room's Too Cold is the debut studio album, and it was released in October 2003 at Drive-Thru Records, which is Starting Line's record label as well. Is that right?
Yeah, there were a lot of bands on Drive-Thru.
Well, I think Starting Line was at least signed because it says here that Kenny was, featured on some of the, he was a guest on some of the tunes on that album, which peaked at number 107 on the U.S. Billboard 200. So pretty good, right? They're touring with Brand New, who was doing their thing at the time. They performed in 2003 on the Drive-Thru Records Invasion Tour. They headlined a tour that was supported by Limbeck at one point, your favorite band in the world,
man.
Limbeck.
Limbeck is awesome.
And they also toured in 2005 with Hawthorne Heights on the Take Action Tour, which we might have to do a show about the Take Action Tour because early November in Hawthorne Heights shows, if any of you were at any of those shows, please tweet at us because that is the show. That's it. The show is the Take Action Tour podcast, pretty much. So anyway, this all happened 2003 to 2005. Pretty cool emo scene career, whatever, right? Like Definitely a jarring bridge, but otherwise falsetto-y, sweet, emo, sad boy Hall of Fame nominee. Everything's fine, right? Everything's fine. Until in July 2005, MySpace emerges as one of the hottest sites on the web and has more page views than Google as of July 19th, 2005, right? With 22 million members at this point, right? So they are touring with Hawthorne Heights, but the song has been out for a while now at this point. Along comes an American rock band called the Plain White T's. Hey There Delilah is a song by that band, as you know. I'm just reading and trying to make it sound like I'm not reading this. It was released in May 2006, so a year after MySpace becomes literally the most popular website on the internet, on their third studio album, All That We Needed. And it received radio play all over the following year and eventually reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in July 2007. And we already walked through the numbers a little bit, but it has sold over 4 million digital copies in the US alone since its release. And I think it's fair to say that Ever So Sweet has not. And I just would like to present to the court the possibility that MySpace, which as of April 2008, not long after this, thing went to I believed it hit number 1 at one point, right? It's their only number 1 single and reached number 2 in the UK as well. Yeah, so by 2008, Facebook overtakes MySpace. Tom has sold MySpace at this point and now travels the world as a photographer or whatever. And all it did was, in my humble opinion, make the Plain White T's career and has done nothing else for society. I don't even dislike Plain White T's, but I just wanted to present this hypothetical. Could the early November have been much wealthier had like MySpace happened to peak in 2003 when they released that song and were touring with Brand New? That's just the basic thought I wanted to talk out with you at this moment. Or do you think they both deserve? Is there an edge or a weird softness to the other one that doesn't have the universal appeal of the other one? Do you prefer one over the other? Do you have any specific memories of one or the other that you heard for the first time or anything like that? I just want to talk this out because I have feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that in terms of commercial viability, Hey There Delilah has the edge for being less edgy than Ever So Sweet. And I've noticed that like on the radio, the pop songs tend to have more repetitive choruses. And it just seems like Hey There Delilah was written to be a radio single. Like it had every intention of being that. Whereas Ever So Sweet was just pouring your blood onto a page and writing with it. And I think they were meant to be two different things. I don't
Are you surprised that he includes the lyric, "Someday I'll pay the bills with this guitar," and gets away with it? Like, it's almost too on the nose, but works better somehow. You know what I mean? Like, it is such a straightforward, that type of song that it's almost maddening, right?
Well, after hanging out with Jesse Lacey on a Brand New tour, I could definitely see lyrics like that creeping into your songs.
Oh, no, that was the Plain White T's.
Oh, okay. Right. It is very Brand New-esque, though. Very cocky. But, I mean, it is... Yeah, I guess it is kind of funny that, like, I don't know if he ever would have assumed this would get... I mean, I honestly would love to know from this song alone how much money it actually made, because it seemed inescapable for a few years. It was in every movie, every TV show, every time you were in the car, it was on the radio. I'm sure he paid more than a few bills with that guitar, which was horribly overcompressed in the later version. Oh
well, what was the Jonas Brothers episode we did where the British band that wrote The Year 3000 that the Jonas Brothers covered, that was just like a UK song that was covered by a Disney band? And they were like, yeah, that paid our rent for a year, so we don't care. This is great. I can only imagine the damage Hey There Delilah did for the members of the Plain White T's, because they rode that to another single a few years later, I think in 2008. 1, 2, 3, 4 was that the official title of the song? But basically, it's another. I remember our English teacher, Mr. Bischoff, Mr. B, as I think only I called him, and he didn't even like it that much. I would always pretend it was like a Boy Meets World thing. I'd be like, "Hey, Mr. B," and he'd be like, "Hi." But yeah, he was like, "Here they are. They've done it again. Another very annoying, totally nice love song." And he was almost mad at how simple it all seemed and how famous they were. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was a bit of an there was like a reason to be upset, especially some of the lyrics of Hey There Delilah, but there was like a universal appeal that, I don't know, I was definitely caught up with it to begin with, mostly because you just started seeing it plastered all over MySpace. Like you went from AIM and the away messages, your profile, right? Your
and then the sub
song lyrics or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And then you could click through it with links. It ended up being kind of like a version of a blog. And then MySpace came along and you could personalize it to such a degree where after a while, you know, were looking around and be like, oh, this person likes Hey There Delilah by the Plain White T's. I should know this song and get to learn it because apparently 80% of humans feel strongly enough about this to embed it in their profile, you know, which is a new feature. But it was like the trendy pick as far as like my memory to do exactly that. It was good though. I don't know if I don't listen to it too much recently, but it took the world by storm, I guess, for good reason. But I guess I watched a live performance on YouTube prepping for the episode of the early November, playing Ever So Sweet, and they were at a show that I'm assuming people bought tickets to watch them, and no one's singing along or cheering or anything to Ever So Sweet. And I'm just going to ask this question over and over for the next, like, I don't know, maybe 90 seconds for how long as we can stretch this out. But how did that not in MySpace? That's it. That's my whole argument. Like, it had every tool. It had the weird edgy bridge, which, you know, it was a little jarring, but so did You've Got It in Your Pocket by the White Stripes. It had a very jarring, edgy bridge as well that didn't make sense. It was kind of like there was a edginess to the emo-ness, you know, the Get Me Something the Kids Will Cry For, MC Lars vibe, right? Like, I don't know. It crosses almost every box. And I'm not saying the songs are identical, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, man? What are your memories?
Well, I wrote down 3 things for why I think Hey There Delilah had the edge over Ever So Sweet. And there's many more. I think it was just a better recording and a better performance. And if there's one thing about the radio, they want a good performance. And like the falsetto in Ever So Sweet is a little weak, a little off. I don't think Ace Enders really had it all there yet. It was, you know, their freshman EP, this and that. But I think Hey There Delilah, I think honestly the guitar part had a lot to do with it because it's so recognizable with its own melody and like that simple rhythm, but it's also something that like the annoying kid at a party with the acoustic guitar could learn in like 5 minutes. So I think there were probably a lot of people who just thought like, oh, this is a great beginner guitar song. I can try to impress a girl. It's a love song. I can perform this for the girl. I remember a guy my sister was dating at the time. God, the poor dude. My sister filmed it and he was just in agony performing this song to my sister. And it's just like, it seemed so, it was just such a sure thing that it was going to hit.
You can cut this out. Was it?
No.
Interesting. Oh my God. He played that for yours. Yeah, you got to cut this out for sure, but holy
Yeah.
Oh
he was so nervous and he kept like awkwardly looking up at the camera. His voice was going in and out. It was so funny. And my sister played it for our whole family. I think but like, you know, he performed it for my sister and my sister just showed it to the whole family. It was like, I can't believe a boy did this for me.
It's just so stupid or whatever. Like, it's so weird. I can't even believe, like, watch it though. No, just kidding.
But it just like, it turned into like the love anthem. And like, this song is about love. It's so easy to digest, that longing, the distance. Like anyone who has experienced dating from a distance knows the feeling, but it's also so like universal, just that longing, because kids in high school, even if someone's in the same room, it like your brain isn't fully developed. You don't know how to communicate your feelings to that person. So it still feels like these people are at a distance.
Here's one of the genius lyrics, I feel like, where they say, they've got planes and trains and cars instead of we've got planes and trains and cars, to establish like, like a metaphorical quote, the man, you know what I mean? Like 1,000 miles seems pretty far, but they've got planes and trains and cars. Like, it's kind of like we are just people here versus the man versus society almost. It's just like, it literally alienates anyone other than the 2 people referenced in the song, which re-listening today, I was kind of like, wow, that's definitely a teen, like how to win over teens. Like, yeah, I know there's me and I know there's them and I hate everybody. I even hate myself sometimes, but I mostly hate society and pretty much everything that's happening. So I don't know. I thought that was a smart little trick in staying They even said of weave. I don't know. Just a small thing I noticed today that's kind of like definitely establishes we talked about this again, not to keep referencing the Jimmy Eat World episode, but the track 3 on that record where there's you and me, there's a point A and there's a point B. Again, the formula is so disturbingly simple, and yet there are like countless examples that just have won me over time and time again. But yeah, somehow it strikes almost the most basic chord, the lowest common denominator. But I don't know, in a way that, is it sophisticated enough to, I don't know. I think you're getting closer with, how do you think it's aged? How do you think both of them have aged? Because there's songs like Wonderwall and songs like, you referenced the acoustic dude at the party or the acoustic dude on the college quad or something, right?
Yeah.
Wonderwall by Oasis. In Oasis in general, it's kind of annoying to hear the Gallagher brothers just continue to fight. Like, okay, I don't care. I don't want to see a headline until they've made up. Like, I get it. Like, they're mean to each other. But now Wonderwall is like a thing that is so overplayed and so overcovered at parties and stuff. How do you think these two songs have aged?
I think Hey There Delilah has aged better, for sure. Ever So Sweet definitely feels stuck in that time of angry, sad boy emo. I don't think the lyrics are as eloquent, and that bridge is just uncomfortable now. I mean, it was back then, I think, too, and I think that's what kept it from that commercial success. Like you said, Hey There Delilah, I mean, they've got planes and trains and cars. I mean, first of all, if it's the teenagers, if it's the high schoolers that are making this song famous, high schoolers don't have cars or like money to buy a plane ticket. So it's like, it's speaking directly to the audience who is making this song famous. And if like nothing else, that line, I don't think I've ever really fully thought about that. That line is fucking genius to like, because again, it's that kind of thing where the kid's like, oh my God, this song is about me. I thought no one knew how I feel. I feel so stuck in my parents' house when I want to be with that girl, but like, I don't have a car. You know, someday I'm going to leave this town. Like, it's got that energy that I think transcends time for sure.
There's a funny Bo Burnham sketch on his comedy special, What? Which I think it was on Netflix for a long time. I think it's free on YouTube. Is one of he released it on his YouTube channel maybe like 10 years ago. But there's a song called Repeat Stuff where he writes a fake Bieber song basically where it's like, how vague can I be? How many people can this apply to? And it was just so funny, like repeat stuff, you know, you're a girl or, you know, you have blue or brown or green eyes, you know, just like he's so vague with it that he makes a joke out of it, but kind of the universalness of pop, I guess, is kind of what draws people in. I'm going to make a quick case for Ever So Sweet, and I'm going to tie it into a modern reference, Marriage Story. Twitter's going a little nuts or they have since Adam Driver was in Star Wars, right? About whether or not Adam Driver is like a hot person. People I follow on Twitter seem to love this discussion, this debate. Have you come across this at all?
I've never heard the name Adam Driver in my life.
Fair enough. Anyway, many people have. I guess he's a famous guy. Whatever. The point that they make about his face, the way it's structured, is to be truly hot, you got to be kind of ugly, as the tweet that I saw that stuck out to me, that there's got to be something not symmetrical. Like, you can be perfectly symmetrical or you can be off in a way that takes it up to a level that you couldn't have reached if you were totally by the book, symmetrical face-wise, right? Is I think the point this Twitter user is trying to make. I would make the case that the falsetto is just off enough, and then this guy's singing his guts out just enough. If you go to that after the fact live version on YouTube, and we can put it in the show notes, I can send you the link later to do so, that to be truly great and a true expression of a sad boy Hall of Famer, what it needs to be, he's doing it because he feels this way and isn't necessarily, like, if it was sang perfectly, I don't think it would hit as home, because it was just the disturbing bridge. It was off and weird just enough. And it was about, like, I guess dessert loosely enough, right? But there's that line where he's like, I'll miss you so good, which is so bad, it's good almost. It's almost like, is it a good kind of bad or a bad kind of good, to take a phrase from Abed from Community? Like, it dances along that line throughout the whole song and keeps your attention. And I think delivers a very similar emotion. Like, if you're listening to I think you'd be in a very similar mood listening to either of these songs. I think they would make the same playlist for a lot of people. I don't know about you. But my main point here is Ever So Sweet. If social media was 2 years, it was 2 years too soon to ride. I think it would have rode a similar wave, given almost every checkbox it had. And it's off just enough to take it to possibly arguably great. It's either awful and the falsetto's bad and it's too cheesy or whatever. I would field that argument all day, but I would counter with there's a chance that it is truly great because of how slightly off it is, especially the acoustic version. Anyway, I just wanted to see if you had thoughts on that.
I actually think the acoustic version, I think the vocals are a little better, but...
Or either, like both versions heavily feature him in an acoustic guitar, right?
Right, yeah. But if we are purely talking about which song should have been more famous, I mean, that comes down to commercial viability and radio play. The radio has never played anything that didn't have a perfect performance. Like, the slightly imperfect is not an endearing quality that radio looks for. So
true. I think we're uncorking a different debate here.
Yeah.
There's the whole like people who like the Mountain Goats and people who like, I don't know, bands that the Hold Steady, for example, or someone that doesn't have a traditionally good vocalist, right? Someone who's a little off. You have to work harder for the love, right? I don't know. To a certain degree, is it possible you're just punishing yourself or you just want to like something other people don't like? But then again, are you like torturing yourself for a lifetime to not allow yourself to enjoy the plain white tee version? Like, if I want to feel this way, it's like choose your own adventure, right? Like, am I going to go this way or that? And just because many people or were exposed to the one and it happened to catch, is it a bad thing to like that as well? I don't know. I think later in life, we're coming around on popier things. I think as we age, it's like, oh, that's a good song. Like, I'm okay with that being a good song. I want it in my library. I want to listen to it every once in a while. I think probably our Taylor Swift fandom is, example A of that, right? Like being more open-minded in that sense. But yeah, I guess you're right. Here's my question. Would the Plain White Tees, would Hey There Delilah have taken the world by storm if it had come out in 2003 and they had done a tour with Brand New? Do you think it still would have reached the heights it had? Or do you think it was aided? There are going to be examples as we continue to talk about the decade where technology impacted things in various ways. Do you think without MySpace or kind of the pre-social media boom, or the MySpace boom, I guess, which for us was post-AIM, pre-Facebook, kind of this is what our lives are going to be like from here on out, like the minute it hit? Do you think it still would have gotten as big?
Well, I mean, it's not like the only difference between the two was MySpace. I mean, Hey There Delilah was on
Yes, it
the
was,
radio.
Tom. That's the only thing. That's it.
No, I mean, like...
There is... I'm just kidding. There's no connective tissue at all. I just wanted to talk about this at length because I truly believe that Ever So Sweet deserves more credit. That's kind of my whole thing.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, they had the radio. I think MySpace, like, helped. I definitely do think that, like... Maybe it's just because we're not in high school anymore, but people seem to be, it seems to be like, I guess, cool for like someone who's into like hip hop to be like, oh, you know what? I also like, I don't know, Norah Jones or something. It seems like more okay than it was. Cause like when I was in high school and listening to like post-hardcore and, I would hear Taylor Swift in my heart, I liked it, but I had to be like, oh my God, Taylor Swift, man. Blah. And now I'm taking special trips to the grocery store just to buy her new People magazine because I'm obsessed with her. But
I'd contend that our song is worse than late career stuff. I do like Tim. I don't know. Like when our song era Taylor, we're allowed to have at the time judged it on, there was no other work to base that off of. So I don't blame Teen You for that, quite frankly. Anyway. Yeah, also, music accessibility, you're not quite as limited to the CDs your friends have or can burn for you, which was probably going to follow the same, I guess, genre guidelines that the people you hung out with are your direct family members for that matter. Like Zach, our buddy who's been on the pod before, having an older brother that had ska just in the house, right? That opened up his world immensely.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to something you said that these songs give off a similar vibe or emotion. I want to argue against that too, because I think they're totally different. I mean, Hey There Delilah is about wanting something, and, Ever So Sweet is looking back in anger at what was. I guess, again, I'm not the guy that's good with lyrics here. I could be totally remembering or misinterpreting, but one makes me feel angry and one makes me feel like sadly in love, kind of, and I think that's probably the purpose. I do think that they could fit on a similar playlist, but I don't think they're telling the same story. Not that that's, groundbreaking news or anything, but I think, to me, they give off extremely different, almost opposite vibes.
Okay, you want me to read some lyrics on you real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Ever so sweet, you baked it in cakes for me. What you left behind, it hurts my teeth. Bring in the past with the postcards you sent to me. Every line, brings me right back down. I think there's a girl in this situation that's not where the boy is, and the boy is expressing his admiration for what once was. I would say they definitely, I think we agree they're on the same playlist. I think a closer lyrical eye would suggest that their boy is in point A, girl has moved on to a point B, and boy is lamenting that fact, the distance itself.
Okay, sure.
I think he's talking about Ever So Sweet. She used to bake cakes and stuff. It's like, it hurt my teeth, but it was sweet. It was good.
Okay. No, I think there's still slightly different emotions.
Yeah, there is something to be said for the weird edge. Ever So Sweet is such a weird song that let me say this as well. I wish it was more famous because I think, here's a question for you. Do you think it better represents the soft side of emo at the time?
Yes.
Like, if people, like, if you looked at both of them, it's like, which one represents more of what you were listening to at the time? If Hawthorne Heights was at one end of the spectrum, I guess they literally toured with Hawthorne Heights. So I guess that if we're looking at the emo thing, I don't know, where does Plain White T's fall in all of this? I guess they had two kind of lovey-dovey songs. I'm curious if we would ever have to do another Plain White T's episode. Do we want to knock some stuff out while we're here? I guess it becomes the question.
I own two of their albums and enjoyed them, but I think they were pretty, I don't know if inconsequential is the word. Like, I remember some of the lyrics and it was poppy, but I don't think it was like comprehensively good, I guess. Just okay. Very watered down.
Do you think they were hindered by the fact that the first love song they wrote took the world by storm?
I think it was on their third album, though, which is also what's crazy. I do think, though, that when you hit that big and your song is very specifically one thing, the world wants you to keep doing that over and over. And I don't think lightning can strike twice like that. And I don't think, I mean, just judging by what I remember of the rest of the albums, they weren't the Chris Carrabba, me and a guitar, everyone get real quiet thing. Like, they had some poppy kind of bombastic energy. So I bet they probably didn't want to be that band.
I guess it becomes that thing where, I forget which example of this, but I think probably many artists feel this way where, that 40 years later, I wouldn't have written this song if I knew I had to play it once a week for the rest of my effing life, right? Like it means so much to so many, and then you end up, the thing you work so hard at becomes the thing that is in the first sentence of your obituary, and you might end up loathing it, right? I don't know if that's how they feel or anything, but I mean, something like that maybe gets out of, like you said earlier, like you got to doubt that maybe they hoped it would have gotten this big, but you can never dream of that type of success, right? Like at that point, you're like, how many downloads? How many million? Oh my God, like our lives are different now, which again is probably maybe what they were striving for to begin with, but it's impossible to predict that sort of thing, I guess.
Yeah, I think they were probably hoping for 1 million, and it blew their minds. Like, they hit
how far up on the charts? Oh, the top of it?
No.
It's reached the end, the top? Cool. Good. I knew it all along. Never doubt.
Yeah, I remember it just being everywhere. I mean, honestly, I think it deserved it. I think it's a good song. I think, it's not like I've gone back to it since 2007 or whatever. We did play it, though. This is one story that I did want to tell. We played it at our second show ever at the Harbor Creek Battle of the Bands. We were the second of 3 bands that played, and we took second place. It was
not bad. Could have gone worse.
I guess it would have been sophomore year of high school, freshman. It was freshman.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Shout out to Kansas City Massacre, which is the only thing I remember about that anecdote. A guy named Tony in that weird metal band that he ended up being the sweetest guy ever.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was I think I mentioned it just a few episodes ago. They were this like beat down hardcore band like every band was in 2005 and 2006 with the long hair and the crate half stacks, and we had to borrow their amp for our little pop punk band, and Adam was just like changing the guitar tone, and the dude's just like looking at him shaking his head from the side of the stage because Adam's little 5-watt Marshall amp, the sound engineer was like, yeah, we can't work with that.
Right.
As we were setting up to play the performance.
Compared to the half stacks, it was like as if we were taking something out of our pockets or something. Like, will this bean speaker work? Like, no, it won't. Like, will this pill speaker work? No, no.
So
what if I play it really loud out of my AirPod headphones? Like it's going to have to be bigger than that, son.
So
and then Adam having the nerve to adjust the man's tones is. He's the technician for sure, and he was probably improving it based on how Kansas City Massacre rolled. But still ballsy nonetheless. Even if it was technically correct, I'm not sure I would have had the stones to go after something like that. But
so, anyways, we take the stage after Kansas City Massacre, using their amps, play "Hey There Delilah," and Zach was singing. Adam played guitar. Were you even there?
How was the crowd?
You were in the crowd.
I think that was it. That might have been a basketball practice one for me.
Okay. And
which was half the shows we're going to reference. I was definitely not there.
So I was the drummer, obviously no drums in the song. I didn't really know what to do. So I just like awkwardly walked around the stage pretending to sing. I was like lip syncing it because I wanted to seem like I was interacting with the song, but I was too scared to sing even if no one could hear me on the stage. And I remember like rubbing my butt up on Zach at one point, and that's like one of those moments that like you said, singing to that girl in like second grade and the whole class heard you. Like that's a moment that I fall asleep thinking about, wishing I could take it back. You know, like
right, like you just sitting there the whole time would have been totally normal, but for some reason you got into it, and then you got embarrassed about getting into it, and then you were like, "Well, I'm going to go for broke and rub my butt on Zach." How did my brain do that? You know, like. Cool. I'm standing. I'm walking. I'm mouthing it out. People do this. There's like a Dimitri Martin sketch on his Comedy Central show where he's like writing a song at a coffee shop. He's like, "Yeah, I'm cool. I'm a songwriter. I'm at the coffee shop. I got a pad and a pencil." You know, I'm like, and then like 30 seconds later, he's like fake air drumming and singing along. He's like, "Wait, this isn't how people write songs. Nobody does this. Like, no one's that physical when they write a song. Like, how did I end up coming to this?" But yeah, I get that. Like, this is what normal people do, right? I'm performing now. I got to give the people what they want. And everyone's like, "What the is that guy doing?" But anyway, I'm sure it was fine. I'm sure it just seems silly and goofy. And
I should have just walked off stage.
Lighthearted in the spirit or the energy that the In Too Deep Sum 41 music video gives off. Like, those pop punkers, they're so silly. They're funny.
So
anyway, I'm sure it was fine.
How do we wrap this up? I mean, is there a consensus? What are the metrics we're judging this on?
I think we're going to say that Hey There Delilah deserved everything it got. Timing and well, they say success is timing versus preparedness. I think they had every measure to do it without MySpace, though, but it probably helped the speed of everything. I think Ever So Sweet maybe was just off enough, but I do think it might have. I think it could have. I think we've done this game on the show before, infinite parallel universes. I think there's 35% of the time Ever So Sweet has the same explosion rate as Hey There Delilah. Do you feel comfortable with 35%?
I'd say like 18 to 20.
Okay. That's fine. 1 out of 5. We'll say roughly 1 out of 5. You comfortable with that? I don't know. There is some reasons it wasn't, but I guess the reason, people say like, what are you passionate about? What do you want to do with your life? And I want to argue about Taking Back Sunday albums and whether or not Ever So Sweet should have been a bigger song with you. That's kind of it. So if you're here, thanks, because there's no reason for that. But yeah, that's all. That's all I want to say is that you're right. I'm wrong. I wanted to float this premise out there, have some hashtag justice for early November. But yeah, we'll see. We'll put it out on Twitter. Let us know what you think. We put it a little bit out on Twitter earlier this week, and people were mostly just mad at MySpace about it. Shout out to Jeremy, who has been vocal with us on Twitter. That's been fun, as well as a few other people as well. But yeah, it's this is the part where you get to edit out my heavy breathing. Yeah, I don't know. I just really like it. Anyway, yeah. I think, do you have any housekeeping you wanted to get to? You said you're working on a couple musical endeavors. You hosted an audio conference or featured on one, and then you did an interview at Denver's podcasting community. You've had a busy week, right? Unless you had any final thoughts on this show as well. But I did want to get to a little bit of housekeeping before we depart.
Yeah, I mean, no final thoughts. I don't think that Ever So Sweet aged as well as Hey There Delilah. I think Hey There Delilah is the better song. I did enjoy Ever So Sweet for a bit, but no more.
Here's a hot take. They both age the same because nobody really thinks about either of them anymore. That's why we're doing this show. Just in case. Just in case. If the aliens come, it will have been documented in some form or fashion. So we can feel good about that, right?
I think that's the perfect way to end this topic.
Gotcha. Just in case. Laying it down onto the permanent record, just in case. Signing off from the family here at Reminiscent. From ours to yours.
So yeah, as you referenced, I had a pretty busy yesterday, which was Tuesday. We're recording this on Wednesday, 2 days before the release. That's been pretty standard. I woke up pretty early to head to downtown Denver, and I was guesting on my friend's podcast at a recording studio. I actually made a vlog, like a 20-minute vlog that will put a link in the show notes, reminiscentpodcast.com/episode/149. Getting close to 150. For those good at math, we are 1 week away. But I guested on her podcast. It's called Poems for People. And we talked for about 35 minutes about Reminiscent, about my career in audio and how it started in music and turned into podcasting, and really got kind of hung up on this podcast and pop punk. And Rachel's thing at the end of the show is, after we're done talking, she has like an old clacky typewriter and she writes you a poem about the conversation. So she ended up writing a poem about pop punk and the podcast, and I'll put a picture of that in the show notes as well. It was really cool. I already forget a lot of what we talked about in the show, but I'll put a link to that. I'll put a link to the vlog. And later on last night, I Skyped into the San Francisco podcasters meetup and gave kind of a 20-minute presentation on audio quality for podcasting, why it matters, and then did like 35 minutes of Q&A, and already got a consulting client out of it. And it was my first like presenting experience. It was pretty uncomfortable. The equipment wouldn't work beforehand. I couldn't see my video, so I didn't really know if my color and light was okay or anything. I think that stuff's really important to perceived authority and trustworthiness, good quality stuff, which is also part of the speech. But it was fun. I'd like to do more of it. I'd like for that to be a portion of my income. So it was nice. It felt like another big step in the career, last March, because of this show and the work that Pat has helped me a lot with. I don't know why I'm talking about you like you're not there. It's I went self-employed.
Thanks, man. No problem. Anytime.
I went self-employed, and then like this feels like another big step. Like, all right, so now I've been doing the education stuff with YouTube. Now it's like time to get in front of crowds and do some public speaking, which should be a fun experience. So it felt fun to do that last night, talk about Reminiscent a little more, and yeah, busy week, man. It was a lot of fun. So good stuff.
Well, heck yeah. I will say this. I haven't stopped listening to Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, the Relient K version, for approximately 3 weeks. I've like even seen extended parts of Hallmark movies and stuff while I'm flipping through the channels and stuff. Like it's happening to me. I'm fully involved. Thank you, Relient K. But it's a beautiful cover. We did an episode last week, the Perfect 2000s Christmas mixtape. And I would suggest listening to it if you missed it.
Can we do a follow-up on that as well? Because I mentioned that I don't typically like to celebrate holidays or really like anything. I like every day to be kind of just like the one before it. No change in routine. But Megan,
I guess I'd rather not follow up. Nope. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Well, Megan and I were talking about like, we both have purposely tried to like not make a big deal out of holidays. A lot of it because we don't really have the money to fully celebrate. But I think we've both come to the conclusion that like it's helpful to have something to like look forward to. Like when we were in school, it was summer break or any kind of like holidays, days off from school. And since we don't really have that, every day just kind of blends into the next. And I'm afraid of on my 50th birthday being like, wait, wasn't I in my 20s like a week ago? And I think that getting into the Christmas spirit and stuff like that would actually mitigate a lot of that passage of time mind trickery that happens as you get older. I think I'm really going to go all in on holidays now and really try to get into it because I I'm not facing those fears of like, where's the time gone? But I don't want that to become a thing. So I think since the recording of our episode last week, I've had a change of heart. I'm going to celebrate Christmas as hard as I can. And not just Christmas, the holiday season.
Yeah, no need for it to be commercial, but if there's a time and a place and some people that bring you comfort that you're around. I had to laugh at when that episode, towards the end, you were like, well, okay, there's one song that makes me think of like this, warm feeling of cuddliness inside my heart from a long time ago. But I guess like there's many inches of ice surrounding it, so there's no reason to recall anything like that. Like, that's the real meaning of Christmas time. Remember, go back. But yeah, that sounds nice. Yeah. I hope, yeah, why not? Right. Or yeah, if you want to ignore it, ignore it. I don't care. I think there's an Arthur episode about that where Buster and his mom don't like Christmas because it reminds them of, I think Buster doesn't have a dad or something. Anyways, it's pretty heavy. But they do Baxter Day instead and have their own thing on just a random day and they enjoy themselves, which is the whole point of any other holiday anyway. So
yeah.
Thanks, Art. Thanks, PBS, for teaching me just about all of it.
Well, what have you been listening to this week? You have a song of the week before we head out?
Did I already do a Menzingers song?
Yes. High School Friend.
Okay, well, I'm going to add Anna because I like it. Yeah, Menzingers. That album was recommended to me a few weeks ago, and I've had one of the songs off that album as my recommended song previously, but I'm going to add another song off of it because before it was just like I need a song of the week for the pod, but now it's like, no, I actually like it. So yeah.
Nice.
Tracks 2 and 3. And track 1, maybe even track 4. Who's to say? But no, yeah, it's good work out of those fellas. So I've been enjoying that recently. Still King Princess, but I already used that, and mostly been listening to Reliant K's Christmas album ever since we did the Christmas draft. Honestly, I'm not even going to lie to you guys.
It's so good.
It's been even non-Christmassy playlists. I've had "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas" on because it's so clean. It's so good. It's so good. It's a nice thing. Anyway.
Nice. So I mentioned the AMAs a few times over the past couple weeks where Taylor Swift was awarded Artist of the Decade. It introduced me more to Camila Cabello's work, which I have recommended as well. I've honestly not listened to much other than her new album Romance, which came out last week. It's really good, but in attempt to get something different, Halsey performed a really awesome, like, artistic kind of performance art thing for her song Graveyard at the AMAs, and she did it a couple days later at, I think, the Billboard one, and it was cool because at the AMAs everything was white and they threw paint everywhere, and at the other one everything was black and they threw white paint everywhere. So it was kind of cool to have like the same routine but just a different color scheme. People were thinking maybe in a Taylor Swift way that was like a message of something to expect on the new album, which I thought was kind of cool. The conspiracies are fun.
Yeah, she I think during her SNL performance she painted a painting, like they had the camera set up top. And she did a painting while singing, which was kind of a cool artsy thing. So it's worth checking that out as well. Camilla was on the Casey Musgraves Christmas special that is on Amazon Prime right now. That was a pleasant enough watch. Fred Armisen and James Corden and some other people stopped by. Dan Levy serves as like the helper elf, the sassy helper elf. It's pretty good. Plus Casey Musgraves' Christmas album is one of the better ones in my opinion, but that's something we've watched recently. Yeah, I think that's about it. Any good books? Any good movies?
I am making a really hard attempt to read Dune. I guess the first 100 or so pages are difficult. I quit multiple times on page 24 or so, and friends are encouraging me to stay with it. I also found a really awesome used bookstore pretty close to my house, and I bought 3 books. I bought the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, The Silmarillion, and a Ray Bradbury book, something about Mars. So trying to get all my sci-fi down.
Oh, not The Martian, but like short stories about Mars or whatever.
I don't know. Let me, I actually left it in my wife's car. I didn't know what it was.
Bradbury's the GOAT. He wrote Fahrenheit 451 and everything. I know I just keep referencing stuff that's hard to explain, but Rachel Bloom from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, very hilarious songwriting comedy on that show. I think Adam Schlesinger helps her out with that. But she had like in her comedy career had a music video for a song called F Me Ray Bradbury. And it's a song about her fandom for his science fiction novels. It's just one of those truly bizarre, very hilarious things. But
nice.
Anyway, I had to mention that.
Yeah, it's the Martian Chronicles.
Yeah. My old roommate Clark that was one of his favorites for sure. So I'm excited for you to get into that. I've never read it myself, but I'm excited anyway. I'm just excited.
Also, I mentioned I read the 3 first Maze Runner books, and we finally watched the 3rd movie, my wife and I. It's like 2.5 hours long. And I don't think it's one of the best movies ever made, but it was like, as a viewer, probably one of my the best experiences I ever had while watching a movie. I loved it. I thought it was like, a lot of like action movies tend to be this like hyper masculine, trying to be funny. They make these dumb faces and try to like, there's a very blockbustery way that macho action movies are done. And I feel like Maze Runner, since I think the books are more geared towards like younger children. I think it's technically considered YA. It didn't really fall into those standards, but it was like an incredible action movie. And I'm impressed by the books were like so just okay, even wildly lacking at times. But the movies were killer. And I'm thinking about just like buying a box set of the 3. So the Maze Runner movies, you can rent each of them for like $4 on Apple TV or whatever. I'd recommend those 2 if you have 6 hours to kill. Some pretty good action stuff. And I'm
going to text you an SNL skit called The Group Hopper that makes fun of young adult novels, and I think you'll like it.
Okay.
I'm just going to keep referencing things you'll have to embed in the show notes just to make your week that much harder, which doesn't make sense because I'm angry with you or anything. 2 last quick ones. Mike Birbiglia's The New One is on Netflix. Tremendous.
Amazing.
I accidentally watched it with my wife's mom who came here for Thanksgiving. Lots of semen discussion. Pretty awkward. I was like, yeah, he's like an NPR guy. He's done This American Life and everything. How bad could it be? And he talks about his ability to ejaculate for basically 2/3 of the whole show. Then we went to the movie theater to watch Knives Out, but it had sold out. We didn't do Fandango beforehand, and we got there and it was sold out. And we were like, oh, what should we watch? Nah, we don't want to watch Ford versus Ferrari. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, nah, maybe not. We ended up watching The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, where basically the 2 of them have to monitor a lighthouse in like rural Maine for like an extended period of time, and this storm keeps them there and they lose their mind. And no spoilers, but it's truly troubling and bizarre visually. It's like an attack on the senses. And so in a 2-day period, I introduced my mother-in-law to like the most, she's the coolest and was totally cool about all of it. But I just felt so guilty for like, no, yeah, it's like a little indie movie. Well, how bad could it be? Yeah, he's an NPR guy. How bad could it be? Like 5 of the hours we spent together was her being too nice to say we should leave early of the things I suggested to watch. So kudos to her for being tremendous. And I want to apologize. I did enjoy the art, but it was just, one of those like in-law things where it's like, I'm sorry, we didn't have to, this is too soon for us to be experiencing this together. It felt like a little bit, but
that's
anyway, holidays, am I right?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Lots of recommendations.
Now that you like holidays, I don't. So just kidding. You want to wrap this one up and get through our New Year's resolution episodes coming up?
Yeah.
Tweet at us at _reminiscentfm if you have any suggestions. I just thought we'd bring a little justice to the early November, and we have some exciting things in the works. It's all been fun. Keep at us on Twitter. That's been a true joy. I'm not just saying that to say that. A lot of you have been reaching out, which has been great.
Yeah, either hit us up on Twitter and let us know what you want to hear, or we've got a lot more listeners than we do reviews on Apple Podcasts. Maybe if you want to go ahead and leave us a review, maybe let us know what you want to hear there. It would help the show out tremendously.
Yeah, I love you, Tom. Thanks for hanging out once more.
I love you too, man. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Next week is episode 150. We are so happy to have made it this far. Let us know on Twitter at _reminiscentfm which song you think won the decade. And we rarely ask for it, but if you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, We would greatly appreciate it. Not sure if the algorithm does anything with it, but it sure makes us feel good. And we will talk to you next week. We love you all. Bye.